Warning, the following video may contain sequences which some viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Technology. It feels like day by day it's becoming more and more inconvenient to live without it. With social media, video sharing websites, video games, the library's worth of information at our fingertips, you'd find it becoming hard to tear away from your phone. Especially the younger generation. Nowadays, children are introduced and become proficient at the use of electronic devices at a very young age. You'd find children who can barely read able to watch videos on YouTube, or a child being amazed at the wonders of the gaming world from the time they're in kindergarten. Technology has really made a lasting impact on our modern-day lives. But with all those positives, there's going to inevitably be negatives. One of those negatives is that you find many younger people these days addicted to technology. Specifically things such as video games or social media. You'd find a young girl taking selfies daily, constantly worried about what her followers would think, trying her hardest to jump on the hottest trends so she can be relevant online. You would also find young guys spending several hours playing MMORPGs online. Playing things like Fortnite, Call of Duty, NBA 2K, etc. Playing these games to the point where it becomes an addiction. An addiction that can potentially lead to destructive behavior. More and more you find kids acting out against their parents while they're playing. Hearing a child who screams at their mother entering their bedroom while he's playing Fortnite is becoming almost normalized at this point. And sadly, there are cases in which the destructive behavior that can ensue from a video game addiction goes beyond abusive words. How far beyond? Far enough for Aleksey, age 15, to bash his 10-year-old sister Luda's head in with a hammer over wanting to play a game on a tablet. Our case today begins in the city of Taraz in northern Kazakhstan. Luda, a 10-year-old girl, who was described as smart and spirited, was bludgeoned with a hammer in her sleep by her 15-year-old brother Aleksey. This happened after an argument between the two earlier that day. Let's go through what happened a bit. Aleksey and Luda, as stated before, had an argument. Aleksey is described as a quote-unquote gamer, and wanted to use an iPad-style tablet for that reason. Luda, however, was different. She wanted to use it to study. You see, Luda was a pleasant little girl. You would find many pictures of her wearing something similar to what a princess wears, along with a big smile. She genuinely seemed like the type of child you would expect to have a bright future. Unlike most people her age, she was actually interested in studying. Isn't that fascinating? A 10-year-old asking to use a tablet to study. That is almost unheard of in these times. It is certainly not the kind of thing someone would expect a little girl to do with a tablet. One would expect a little girl to use it to watch YouTube videos or a cartoon. But not Luda. She wasn't like that. It was never said who won the argument, but if one were to go by the actions of her brother, you would conclude that she won that argument. And for obvious reasons. Luda wanted to use the tablet to better herself, whereas Aleksey just wanted it to play a game. If their parents got involved, it was clear who would win that argument. A neighbor, however, did witness the argument. And they stated that after that argument happened, they saw Aleksey carrying a hammer in his hand. But he didn't do anything just yet. He waited until she fell asleep at night. He approached her sleeping body with the hammer, then smashed it into her head, over and over and over again. After that, he carried her body and dumped it near his neighbor's fence. What Aleksey did next took a lot of guts. After killing his sister, he changed out of the bloody clothes, then told his parents that she disappeared, knowing fully well what happened, what he did to her. Their parents obviously became worried immediately. Luda was 10 years old. One would shudder to even imagine the potential dangers she could have been facing at the time. They rushed to search for her. Aleksey had the audacity to pretend that he actually cared. He actively helped them search for her, and he eventually led them to the body, acting oblivious as to what happened. When the body was found, one could only imagine the pain the parents felt. Their little girl's head disfigured, then her body tossed near a fence like she was garbage. At the time, they didn't know the killer was right next to them. They didn't know the killer led them there, and they didn't know the killer was the same person who was pretending that he was so concerned that she had gone missing. The parents alerted the authorities. When the paramedics arrived, it was clear that she was long dead. Aleksey made sure of it. He bludgeoned her out of pure rage. He smashed her head so much that when the police went to pick up her body, a piece of her skull fell off. Aleksey just stood there, watching the scene unfold. Probably elated on the inside that he could finally play whatever stupid game he thought meant more than his sister's life. But little did he know that this was far from over. A murder investigation was launched right away. To be fair, Aleksey was just some kid he didn't kill before, so he was very sloppy. They quickly found out he was the culprit. He hid the bloodied clothes he wore within the house, and the police found them quickly. The clothes belonged to him. He alerted his parents. He actively helped them search and eventually led them to the body. He left a trail leading right to himself. And when interrogated, he confessed. Here is where you realize that this child had no remorse over his actions. During interrogations, he stated plainly that he killed her because she pissed him off. What kind of child would say something like that? Killing your own sister over a tablet because she pissed you off? Luda did nothing that warranted such a reaction. He placed a tablet game, above his own sister's life. Actually, let's talk about that. Aleksey's claim to be a gamer in itself was just deluded. He was just a 15-year-old student who was addicted to video games. Games on devices such as tablets aren't even at a high quality typically. Most of them can be put several leagues below PC and console games. So essentially, this gamer killed his sister over something that was on the lowest branch in the tree of video gaming. It's like killing for something that's trash. He put a low-quality video game above his sister's life. That's what really blows my mind about this. How could you let yourself become so addicted to a tablet game that your sister's life became of lesser importance to you? Her life to him became a hindrance, just because he wouldn't get to play the game at that time. He wasn't going to never play the game again. He just had to let her study, then he could have it. In fact, riddle me this. Why didn't he just take the tablet and play the game while she slept? She was asleep when he killed her. Why not just play the game then? But no, he wanted to get rid of the problem permanently, and his sister's life was sadly something he had no problem taking. But I digress. After he confessed, he would be facing up to 15 years in prison if he was found guilty. Only 15? Yes. Why? Because he is a minor. Meaning, according to law, he was not fully developed yet. While that is true, and people's minds don't fully develop until they're in their 20s, can you honestly say that this boy didn't know what he was doing? In a bout of rage, he smashed her head in, over and over and over again. This isn't something like he threw her to the ground or he just hit her. No, they had an argument. After the argument, he went to get a hammer, carried it around, waited until she fell asleep at night, and then killed her. Doesn't that look like premeditation? After he killed her, he dumped the body, then tried to cover his tracks by telling his parents that she disappeared, though he basically helped the police catch him because of his actions. Doesn't what he did after show that it was deliberate? Even if you were addicted to video games, and one would want to say he needs rehabilitation, being addicted to a game and killing someone else are two very different things. Many people can be addicted to a game, but you don't hear them killing their sisters now, do you? Granted, maybe there is an underlying problem here. Maybe he has anger issues. Maybe he isn't right in the head. But a crime of that severity, and the fact that he did it to his own sister who was 10 years old. A child, with her entire life ahead of her, I don't know if that amount of time is justified even if he is a minor. This is the type of crime someone gets life in prison for if they're 18 or older. So is 15 years really fair? Well, maybe that's a matter of opinion, but I think if any of us were to have a 10-year-old child that someone did something like this to, even if the killer is just 15, I don't think any of us would be okay with anything but a life sentence. But again, that is just a matter of opinion. What happened to Luda was heartbreaking. She had her entire life ahead of her. A young girl who was showing signs of a very bright future. All of that snatched away because of a video game, on a tablet of all things. Life isn't a video game. You don't have extra lives. You don't just kill someone and they respawn later. Killing is permanent. A life is permanent. And it's just sad that Luda's was taken because she just wanted to study. I hope her family can find closure in some way. They say time heals all wounds after all. But it might be a long time before this wound heals. Though I doubt the gravity of Aleksey's actions will dawn on him for a while now. I do hope one day he really realizes just what he's done, and shows some kind of remorse. Regardless, Luda didn't deserve that, and I do hope that she rests in peace. Sadly, this probably won't be the last time we get a case like this. And the unfortunate truth is sometimes, the people we trust the most can be the ones that we need to be the most weary about.